July 29, 2015. This is a special meeting of the Lunenburg Water District called by a citizen petition. I know there's been some confusion. I want you to understand. In order to vote at this meeting, you must be 1, a registered voter in the town of Lunenburg. 2, you must live within the water district. In addition to other roles you may have seen me play, I'm the moderator of this Lunenburg Water District. This is not a town meeting, although it's a meeting in the town. I declare that the warrant and the petition that brought us here have been properly served and returned according to the records in the Water District Clerk's office. Obviously, we have a quorum. Would you please stand and join me facing the flag and the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'm going to go over the ground rules for the meeting when I have your attention. Okay? Please turn off your noisemakers, your cell phones, your beepers, etc. That would include any verbal noisemakers that are inappropriate for civil debate. Okay? That I mean, no hissing, booing, hooting, hollering. Questions and comments should be addressed to me, and I will seek an answer for you from a board or from a moving party. It's not appropriate to speak about particular individuals by their name. In civil debate, it's more appropriate to say the previous speaker, the moving party, the member of the board of commissioners, etc. Your comments need to be at microphones. You can see there is one in each of the aisles. You will state your name and your street address. The commissioners and Mr. McNamara, who is their superintendent, will be allowed to speak from the table out front. Generally speaking, we will go in order of the people that are at the microphones. However, in my discretion, if I think we need to hear something from one of the commissioners or from the council for the water district, I reserve that right to take those out of order. The moving party for this article will speak first, be given time to present the article. Thereafter, other speakers may rise to the microphone and state their opinions, ask their questions. If there's to be an amendment to the article, and it's more than a simple amendment, you'll need to put it in writing. And if you need some paper, I will provide that to you. Moving the question, which is often common at meetings like these, is a statement where you wish to cut off the debate. If you wish to make that motion, it must be done at the microphone. It is a 2/3 majority, and the moderator, myself, has the right to say it's out of order at this time if there are just too many people who are still here ready to vote. The article will first be put to a voice vote. I will declare the article as either passed or failed. If there are 7 people that disagree with me, and this is a majority vote, by the way, if there are 7 people who disagree with me, think I got it wrong, you will stand and say, I got it. And if there are 7 people who do, then we will do a hand count. You will do a hand count with your slip, which I have already misplaced. The yellow slip that says yes or no. Thank you. And the reason we gave you those slips is that I do hear sometimes when there's a particularly contentious issue, let's say, somebody might raise to the microphone and ask that it be by secret ballot. And if it was, we already have a ballot that's prepared for it. I'm not suggesting that has to happen. I'm just suggesting that we prepared for it just in case. Guests should be seated over here to my right or left. We're in the visitors section. I suspect that some of them, many of them maybe live in town, maybe registered voters in town, maybe don't live within the district. Generally speaking, in other forums, visitors are not allowed to speak unless a resident rises and gives them permission or their time to speak. I'm going to modify that for this evening because this is different than town meeting. If the visitors wish to speak, they may rise to the microphone and speak. But in addition to their name and their street address, they need to identify themselves as a visitor. Okay? This body conducts our business, because it's the book that I read, town meeting time. Okay? And it follows procedures that are similar to Robert's Rules of Order, but it's written more specifically for conducting town-type business. We want you to be comfortable while you turn the air conditioning on. You may eat while you're in the auditorium. I think it's appropriate for a meeting like tonight to say, stay hydrated, drink water. That's supposed to be a joke. Now they get lighten the mood. People are serious tonight, I can tell. Okay, we're now ready to begin. And Article 1 is now recorded. Okay, so this is the part, folks, where somebody stands to move Article 1. There you go. I would guess that it would be somebody from the citizen petition.
In the interest of moving this meeting along, I move Article 1.
Well, I think we need to read what you're moving. First off, we need to get your name, where you live, and have you been at a meeting before? I suspect you knew that.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Tom Bertram, 312 Townsend Road, Lunenburg, Mass. Does someone have a copy of Article 1 for me?
Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Article 1. To see if the district will vote to rescind the vote taken pursuant to Article 8 of the warrant of the annual district meeting on March 28, 2015, pertaining to the proposed expansion of the district into the northwesterly part of the town of Lancaster, or act anything thereon.
Second, Mr. Burke, and I assume you started off by saying, I move that the town.
I move that the water district.
Okay, thank you. All right, so is there a second? Second. Okay. Now, Mr. Bertram, since you were the moving party, you get the first comment and speak or ask questions.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I am not the author of this petition. I am simply here to move this meeting forward in a timely fashion. So, this morning, how can I help you again?
That's enough. So, would somebody like to rise to the microphone and address the article that's now before the body? I think ladies first.
Paula Bertram, 312 Townsend Road. The reason, and I was not the author of the petition, however, I did sign it. And the questions that I have, while I understand that Lancaster is in need of water, and I understand that we may have capacity to sell to Lancaster, my issue is with expanding the district. And there are a number of concerns that I have relative to that proposal. The first is that when you expand the district, and any entity within that district can now petition for water connection. There's been talk about we're looking at 250,000 gallons per day. The reality is that until we get to the total of our water withdrawal permit, which currently we are, which I understand the water district is moving forward to seek expansion of that, entities within that district can come within that district, within Lancaster, can come and say, we want more water. The reality is, we don't have the ability to say no if it is an expansion of the district. It was an intermunicipal agreement, and I did read the literature that the water district distributed, noting that Lancaster was against an intermunicipal agreement. However, it's my understanding that Lancaster is currently exploring a potential intermunicipal agreement with the town of Shirley as a backup plan. So I question as to the statement that Lancaster is not willing to, because our understanding from talking with Lancaster, Ryan, not the town manager, is that they would be willing to entertain that. If you do an intermunicipal agreement, you can put a cap on the amount of water that's going to the town of Lancaster, whereas it's not open-ended. I understand that we want to facilitate and help our neighbors. The reality is that we need to protect the water resources within the town of Lunenburg and in our wetlands and water region in the town of Lunenburg. And I'm very concerned about potential expansion. The next point that I want to make is that we...
Let me stop you right there. Because I think you need to explain to some people who are not as well what you mean by an intermunicipal agreement.
It's just that. It's basically an agreement between two municipal entities or more, could be more, agreeing to a service. And an agreement is written as to what the cost of that service is going to be, what services will be provided. And in fact, the town of Lunenburg, the sewer district, has an intermunicipal agreement with the cities of Lunenburg and Fitchburg. And they happen all the time for public safety reasons, for water, for sewer, for other reasons. So they're basically an agreement between two towns, two cities, a city and a town, but two municipal entities. The next point that I want to make is that we've all experienced water bans in the town of Lunenburg. And this year, we haven't had too many issues with water bans. However, we are currently under a ban. No unnecessary water uses between the hours of 9 and 5. However, a commercial entity does not have to comply with water bans. So I want everyone to understand that. When we talk about hospitals, when we talk about hotels, or any other of the enterprises that Lancaster is looking at, which would be great to have, don't misunderstand me, there's no restrictions ban for those entities. So while we may have restrictions because the stream of Pepperell has a low flow, and I want to point out the reason that DEP puts our restrictions is because water is a regional entity. And so the reason DEP says, okay, if the stream in Pepperell is low flow, then we're going to require restrictions on customers. Because it's not just the town of Lunenburg, it's a regional issue. And my concern is that by making the part of the district, we will potentially lose our voting rights. I'm not opposed to an intermunicipal agreement with a cap within what we can sell. And I've heard a lot about the revenue stream. The reality is that the customers within the new district, if this passes, will pay the same rates as you and I. They're not going to pay more. It's not going to be some magic bullet to prevent our costs from going up. However, with an intermunicipal agreement, you can structure that agreement so that those customers are going to pay a higher source for the privilege of utilizing our water. The final point I want to make is there's a lot of talk about the water sources in the town of Lancaster. I've heard that the developer wants to move forward with these projects ASAP. Therefore, they don't want to spend the money and take the time. It takes about 3 years to drill a well and have it approved. That they don't want to take that time. They don't want to slow their projects. They just want water. Once they have water and they're part of our district, there's no leverage to make them install wells. So if and when wells are installed within that area, my concern is that it will be at our cost. And if we have such an abundance of water, which we hear about if you read the data that's provided, why are we going to do this to get additional water sources?
Thank you.
First, you wanted to address the matters that she raised. Did you want to address
I was
those?
kind of hoping she'd do it one at a time. We're ready to proceed.
I'll get you, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Moderator, my name is Dave Rogers. I'm the chairman of the Lunenburg Board of Water Commissioners. I too appreciate you all taking the time to come this evening. First and foremost, the Lunenburg Board of Water Commissioners have looked at all kinds of different options relative to this situation. And frankly, we are not interested in an intermunicipal agreement because we then would lose the potential well sites, which we think are very, very important to this whole project. The second is that part of the arrangement that we would push for is that there would be a 500,000 gallon storage tank that would be required to be placed on the site, and there would be revenue derived from that through telecommunication towers, etc. The other thing is, with an intermunicipal agreement, we wouldn't have access to the tie-in fees. So we are not interested in just having a meter at the entrance to the designated run of water mains and just sending them a bill. We are interested in sending them a bill, getting income from the storage tanks, getting income from the tie-in fees as well as the rates. But most importantly, we're always looking for additional well sites. And that is what we would do. Look for additional well sites on that site and make sure that we have them and then move forward. Now, it's important for us to make sure that we take care of all of Lunenburg, and by doing that, we have, as a backup to the abundance of water that we have, approximately 1.7 million gallons a day, we have an excess capacity. We have entered into discussions with the city of Fitchburg, and they have agreed to provide water to us if we have an emergency. So we tried to cover it on all different spectrums. As I said, the main thing is that we want the well sites. Okay? In addition to the water sources, which is an important factor, some of the folks in the town have said, why aren't we providing water to current Lunenburg residents? Well, actually, water is available for all of Lunenburg residents. Cost to extend is the main reason why people do not tie into the Lunenburg water district. The water system extension would be done by the betterment process. And typically, like we've done down at Hickory Hills, when we extended the water mains down there, we did it with the betterment process over a period of years. It was included in their tax bill, it was paid off, and at the end of the prescribed period of time, there was no more charges, and everybody had water. And this is probably a great time to make reference to the area down at Hickory Hills, because had we not put the water down there, I doubt that the people would have been able to exist the way they are existing today. And what do I mean by that? The lots are so small, without ample area for septic systems, that they would encroach into the wells that were there. So by having the water extended down there, we have enabled the folks down there to be able to expand and to stay in their houses. We have to also compare the cost of extending water lines versus the cost of a new private well. And this is something that all the homeowners do when they make an informed decision about what they should do. And the last point relative to providing water to current Lunenburg residents in the water district is that we are available to discuss this issue with you and your neighbors should the opportunity exist. We're happy to sit down and to do that with you. Part of this equation with the town of Lancaster is cost. And people have asked us, how much will this project cost the Lunenburg Water District and the takers within the town and the district? The cost for the infrastructure is zero. And infrastructure, I mean the lines and that sort of thing. They have to pay the entire cost. There is a cost that we would have to incur in order to provide water to Lancaster, and that is approximately $31,000. and it comes from electricity that we would pay to pump the water to Lancaster. The maintenance of the lines within the area of Lancaster and the designated area that we're going to hopefully expand into will be done with our existing staff. We have enough people so that we feel that we can adequately do that. The net proceeds of selling 250,000 gallons of water per day will be $408,000. As a frame of reference, our current Lunenburg Water District budget is $1.1 million. So if you do the math, this equates to a 39% increase in the revenue that we would receive in the water district. Why is the Lunenburg Water District suggesting that we do this arrangement with Lancaster? First and foremost, what we want to do is to lower the rates to all of the people that take water. Why else does this make any sense? We want to be able to reduce the rates that you folks pay. And worst case, if we have projects that we take care of in terms of updating our water system, we would be at least able to maintain the rates and not ask you for additional monies to pay for this expense. We would have new well sites, more water for the Lunenburg Water District. The storage tank that I talked about briefly before, that we are going to insist they put up, would be approximately 500,000 gallons. And we need that for fire suppression systems. That's why we would require this. In addition, there would be revenue that we would receive by attaching telecommunication antennas onto that storage tank. There's only one storage tank. Now, the other reason that we should do this is that we would be able to improve Lunenburg's water system with the added revenue that's generated. The Lunenburg Water District was incorporated and began in 1939. I've been a water commissioner for 40 years. And during that period of time, we have always tried to improve and update and maintain the water system, the distribution system. We've put in new towers, one on Pope Road, Chase Road, and one on Sunny Hill Road, as well as new well sites, heating sites specifically, so-called, that we came to you folks and asked money for. And by having this additional revenue, specifically the $408,000, we will be able to maintain at a higher level than we are able to do now because of the increased revenue that we will realize. We are always looking for additional well sites, and there are potential well sites in North Lancaster that would serve the proposed development and leave the Keating well for use in Lunenburg. Now, what do I mean by that? By accessing well water on the site, it would serve the site in question, and we wouldn't have to pump from the Keating well on the Shirley Leominster Road. So we could use that well to maintain other properties and other needs that we have within the district. Current water district rates. The other reason that we're interested in doing this is so that we can maintain rates that we feel will be reasonable and competitive. Frankly, we haven't had a rate increase for 5 years, since 2010. Rates were increased for the installation of the Keating well. Rates are anticipated to be raised in the very near future because electric costs, maintenance costs, etc., etc. Expansion into Lancaster will potentially hold the rate increases off. Rates will be held more consistent while projects are being done to the Lunenburg system for improvements. There'll be a consistency. Will our expansion into Lancaster risk a takeover of the water district by Lancaster? And we do not feel that it will. We feel that it's a manageable risk. And by that I mean, if something happens that the good people, see, I said it, Dave, the good people of Lunenburg feel that there's an issue, we can have a special meeting, just like we're having here tonight. So that is the safeguard that we have in terms of managing that risk. And frankly, I want to give you a relative statistic. There are approximately 175 people that are registered voters at Emerald Place. Not one of them voted at the annual meeting, and not anyone came to town meeting. There are 7,000, I'm told, I just got this note, 7,000 total voters in Lunenburg. 187 is the number registered voters in Emerald Place, and 56 registered in Tri-Town Landing. 0 voted from Emerald Place, and 0 voted from Tri-Town. A total in the town of Lunenburg was 247 people voted. Lancaster's current water system is such that it's on the other side of the town, and it's not capable of supplying this section of North Lancaster. It would require a complete redesign, which is why they're looking for water in this particular area. Basically, it's not a viable option. So why doesn't Lancaster use the wells in North Lancaster area and do their own water system? Well, the simple answer is that it takes several years to put a new water supply online. It took almost 6 years to get the new heating well online. So the developers are looking for a water source immediately, and waiting for water sources to come online in several years is not an option. What about supplying commercial developments in Lunenburg if they present themselves? We have enough water to do whatever we need to do in terms of commercial entities. And I want to give you some statistics in that regard. Walmart, just Walmart, not the whole complex, their use of water equates to the usage of 9 homes in Lunenburg. Hannaford is equivalent to 10 homes in Lunenburg because of the bakery and hand washing, et cetera, et cetera. Crossroads Plaza, where Extapa and Dario's is, equates to 16 houses. With the amount of water used by these businesses, there is no concern of having issues supplying needed water. In addition, this line would go up Fort Pond Road and Leominster Shirley Road, and that has industrial land that could be serviced by this water line to Lancaster. Supplying commercial development is not a problem. We appreciate your coming out this evening. I hope that I've been able to answer some of the questions that you all might have, and frankly, we're looking for your support for all the reasons that I have stated this evening. So with that, I will turn it back to the moderator.
Thank you. Sir, you've been patient, and thank you.
Yes, Mr. Moderator. My name is Carl Stratmeyer, 39 Valley Road, and I rise in support of the current motion to rescind. My concern about the idea of expanding the district to Lancaster has mostly to do with the fact that I believe it to be premature. The previous speaker mentioned a whole series of questions which remain, I believe, unanswered in concrete sense. The chairman just now mentioned a lot of things about finances, commitment of developers, schedule, rate changes, maintenance of existing plants, all of which I believe, in order to answer fairly, needs to be presented to the membership here has some hard figures, financial analysis, a project plan. The town recently voted to build a very significant capital asset here in the new high school. The homework that went into that was significant. The town debated those figures in depth and did not come to that decision easily. So far, with respect to the expansion to Lunenburg, we have all these issues about the things I mentioned. Previous speaker also mentioned the contractual basis on which the water will be provided, things like that. We have not seen a written plan or a written analysis or a written commitment. We're doing this to support a developer that hasn't even been publicly named, let alone that we have a commitment from that developer. We're talking about a capital, as I understand it, we're talking about a capital investment on the scale of a new high school. There are millions of dollars of effort, plan, physical infrastructure. And to do that on the basis of, it would be nice if, or I think that maybe, or, that kind of thing, maybe it's true. But at this point, I believe it's premature until we see the actual data. Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Moderator and residents. First, I just want to say...
You got Charlie today.
My name is David. How's that better? How's that better? Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for everyone for coming. And I accept David Jones, 155,000 Second mic round. Karaoke style. I just want to say, first of all, I'm here tonight to let the water district know that I think their employees in the field do a great job and it's good service. Every time I call, I get service from the water district. So this has nothing to do with the employees who work for the water district. To me, this is a business decision, a very important business decision. That's why we're here tonight. I just have a couple of questions. Mr. Rogers stated that Grove on Hickory Hills. Very good comment, Dave. I guess I should thank you for bringing water to Hickory Hills because you have a lot of good customers in that service. My concern, though, is that if you bring water to Lancaster through a expansion of the district, you go right by Fort Pond, you go right by Kimball's, and by the way, Kimball's part of this expansion as well. Because at the last meeting, you said Kimball's wasn't part of the televised meeting, just for the record. So, if you can sit there and honestly say that we expanded to the district, and as we talked about, there's water, they will come. That district's going to expand even more. So I don't know how you can sit here and say that it won't expand. Because if I lived on Fort Pond, I would definitely want to tie in water. And so all other people want to come in water. That's number one. Number two, I am totally against expanding the district. I think an MIA would be the best thing for the town's interest, for everyone, every resident, and for you in the long run. By tying in with an MIA, you can't get tied in. You can't get tied in.
You're right to the intermunicipal agreement.
I think what you have to do is work on that. I feel that if an IMA is in place, I would support that. To limit the water. But to increase the district does not make business sense at all. The other thing is, I know you guys are negotiating with an IMA with Pittsburgh, which kind of blows my mind because on one hand you're saying we have enough water, yet you're going to Pittsburgh for more water in case of emergency. What would that emergency be? I don't know. I don't know who to ask, Mr. Murphy or Mr. Rogers.
Well, you have a question, ask the question, and I'll ask it. The party's trying to make a speak, which is fine, but if you want to ask a specific question, feel free.
The first question would be, what would the emergency need if we have 1.5 million gallons a day to do a IMA with Pittsburgh? I don't understand that at all.
Sure. So identify yourself.
My name is Fran McNamara, Superintendent, Lunenburg Water. The emergency connection with Fitchburg, which we've been trying to do since I've been here, 25, 30 years, is exactly as it says, it's emergency connection. And most of the big push for this particular project was due to the comments that kept coming out that we were going to turn on Hickory Hills Road. So we used this as an alternate source just to satisfy the people that we had another option available, because we have no intentions of turning on the Hickory's well. It's shut off from DEP. We did not shut it off. DEP said you will not run that well. So we did the Fitchburg connection as an emergency connection just to satisfy everybody's concerns.
I appreciate that. The comment to that would be at the last meeting that we had televised, Mr. Rogers made it quite clear that everyone think we know that well will not be decommissioned. In fact, you're going to be investing money into it. So that's a different story as well. The problem I have is there's too many discrepancies. For example, that's why we're here tonight, because a lot of people didn't know about it. And the thing that really upsets me a little bit is, I read in the ledger, I wasn't at the meeting, but one of your meetings a few weeks ago. In the ledger, I read that Mr. Rogers, you said about open meeting law, that you don't give a blank about open meeting law. That's concerning, because we don't know what you're doing. At least I don't know. Maybe some of these residents, they do, but that bothers me a lot. If we come out and say the paper, it's even more bizarre. It's just that the transparency has to be there. Thank you, Mr. Martin. Oh, one more question. If this doesn't go through, the rate's going to go up.
Someone answer that question.
There's a whole host of questions that I'd like to
Answer the question.
Good.
Everybody that speaks has like 6 things,
Sure.
including you.
The short answer to will the rates go up, will be yes. I mean, as I mentioned, we haven't increased the rates for 5 years, and that's more than we can say for the municipality that we all love and live in. With specific regard to open meeting laws, okay? My exact recollection of what I said to Mr. Troy Daniels was, I don't give a shit. Okay? And I truly don't care what he thinks, because he was pontificating about the open meeting laws. Of course I care about the open meeting laws. I just didn't care about his comments and his concerns about that. The other response I have, Dave, excuse me, the previous speaker, is that I want you to make sure you understand that we have a limit of 250,000 gallons that we are talking about selling to Lancaster. It's not an open-ended thing, okay? And it would all be in concert with Title V and that sort of thing. So that's to be considered. In addition to what Fran said, that we wanted to have, per the concerns of the folks here, what if we had a thunder and lightning storm and it took out one of our pumps? That's the kind of thing that I'm talking about. You know, we'd have an emergency, we could plug in right away, and we would not miss it. Okay? That's what I have in mind in terms of emergencies. So, there was one other inconsistency that you said, I said, when I said, Kimball's Ice Cream. Okay.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, but go ahead. I'm not going to lose control of this meeting, I'm telling you right now. Go ahead, Kimball's
Kimball's Ice Cream. Okay. Initially, they had zero interest in getting into this. Okay? And then I believe, I'd like to turn it over to Frank, because he knows the specificity of this, and he can respond.
Okay, on the initial discussions with the developers and Lancaster officials, Kimball's was not part of this project. It was actually mostly my push, because it didn't make any sense to run the district boundary down one particular street. It didn't make sense to me to have a water main that only people on the right side of the street was connected. I wanted to make it so everybody was connected. So Kimball's, at my request, was actually put into the district boundaries. It wasn't Kimball's, from what I heard from Lancaster, was that Kimball's actually just installed a new well. They had no interest of connecting to the water. So at the initial stages, they were not part of the district boundaries.
Now you're at your seat, you can get back up. Sir.
My name is Jamie Cole, 147 Peninsula Drive, Water District customer 1875.
We've been looking for that.
I appreciate the chairman's concern for the number of voters that came to the town meeting, and I share the concern that 247 voters came in total to the last town election. But my concern, and one of my major concerns, is as a customer of the Water District, some serious decisions were made at their meeting at March 28th. Decisions about salaries and benefits to the directors and the employees, decisions about buildings, and this considerable decision about expanding the district into the Lancaster space. Meeting took place in 16 minutes and had 10 voters at that meeting. What I hear this evening is a lot of backpedaling and talking about why that was done then. I do believe that the speaker before, Mr. McDonald, talked about some very good precedents that the town did with the high school, doing our homework, getting information, making a quality decision. I would have to say that the Wayne property decision was also done in a very visible way with all the data that was required for the townspeople to make a vote. I don't believe that was done in this case, and that's why we have way more than 10 people here this evening. Two areas that I'd just like to clear up in some of the materials that were handed out by the Water District. There's a comment in here that says we are currently separate from the town of Lunenburg. However, it appears that the selectmen would like to take control of the Lunenburg Water District. I happen to be the chair of the Lunenburg Board of Selectmen. We've never had a discussion in that regard. I don't believe we had opinions in that regard. But at the meeting that we posted to try to bring some of the information we talked about tonight to the town, we did take a vote, and it was unanimous that the Lunenburg Board of Selectmen are not in favor of the expansion and are in favor of tonight's forum. Thank you.
Lady, go first. Go ahead.
Rita Joyce Heon, 280 Sunny Hill Road, up by one of those water towers. I have some questions to very specific things. I would like to know if there has been any impact study done on the aquifers that supply the wells for this particular endeavor, or whether you're just assuming that you will always have the gallons of water that we are getting now.
Let's let somebody come up here, one of the commissioners address that. Your name and who you are.
I'm John Esposito, Commissioner with 406 Multis Road. John Esposito, 406 Multis Road, I'm the Water Commissioner. There's been a lot of questions that have been asked by previous citizens that we haven't had a chance to respond to.
Well, you gotta answer her question. She asked a question, okay?
Frank Beckman, Superintendent. Studies have been done. The particular well that's going to feed Lancaster is the Keating well. 5 years ago, we did a very stressful test on that well. We pumped it at 1,000 gallons a minute for 15 days. That's more water than we'll ever use for feeding anybody. That could feed all of Lunenburg, all of Lancaster, probably even that Shirley there too. We will never use that kind of demand that we tested the well at. So it was confirmed that that well can sustain that rate constantly. So when we commit to Lancaster, which is a maximum of 250,000, which is Title V numbers, the actual true number is probably half of that. So we're probably looking at 125 to 150,000 gallons. To pump that well, we're talking 2 hours. 2 hours of extra time to supply Lancaster. So we're not talking huge demands. But the studies were all done, all the data was passed through our engineers in conjunction with Mass DEP, and it was all confirmed that that well can produce that water constantly. But that doesn't mean, that means the well still needs maintenance. But that well, the water is there, the water is available to pump. So the studies have been done.
Do you have another question, ma'am?
That answers my question. At least you've given some consideration to it. Not really though, because what you said is that the well is capable of pumping this kind of water for 15 days. And we're talking, what, 5 or 8 years before they supposedly get their system up to take over this?
Well, that's kind of a different question. I mean, the well test, the stressful test is 15 days. That's what they want for all the groundwater levels, and they determined that this well can actually constantly run at that flow rate. The 5 to 7 years, the part that this is kind of tied into the intermunicipal agreement, for them to put it in a well, if Lancaster did it or some other entity, if Lunenburg didn't go this route, this was all not approved, it could take several years. And that's the part of the intermunicipal agreement that I'm opposed to, going that route. If we did an intermunicipal agreement, we sold that water, there's potential wells in Lancaster. I know if I was the sewer department in Lunenburg, I definitely would not be paying Lemonson, Fitchburg, get rid of the sewer. I'd be putting in my own sewer treatment plant. And in Lancaster, I assume someone over there would have the same mentality. They would pay Lunenburg just enough time to get their own well online, and then Lunenburg is done. So the benefit to Lunenburg is short-term if we get an intermunicipal agreement.
So what kind of assurances do you have that they are motivated to do this?
The new wells,
new wells.
we actually had a meeting yesterday with all the Lancaster officials, their engineer, and their well drilling company, and we're looking at well sites. We talked about bedrock wells, gravel pack wells, there's actually several possible gravel pack wells. And then there's some state land that the state is trying to release back to Lancaster with this additional sites. And it was perfectly clear, we actually had developers at this meeting, and it's perfectly clear that the developers were paying for the whole entire process. At that time, we weren't, if this meeting passes tonight and we get to go ahead to go, all that process of investigating the wells is going to start immediately. So
it's the developer that's paying all of the monies to make the water tower that's there, the 500-gallon water tower?
Correct. Yep, the water storage tank, all the water mains, and yesterday's meeting was advising them that they're also paying 100% for that, the new well source.
Okay. And you had mentioned that this will generate money to pay for improvements to the existing system in Lunenburg itself. And then at this, earlier someone had stated that you would be able to put in these new lines for the new addition in Lancaster with the existing crew. Are you going to be able to do both at the same time?
Well, we're not going to install any of the infrastructure into Lancaster. We will oversee it. All the plans will be approved. They'll be designed by the Lancaster engineer. They'll be confirmed at meeting standards by our engineer. So we won't have any part of the actual installation. We'll oversee certain segments of it just to assure that it's being done, installed correctly. But we will not have any financial obligation to any part of the water mains, the tanks, the wells, any infrastructure that's going to be installed.
Okay, thank you.
It's a delight that you're here. Please come back. I say that because we didn't even have a quorum at the end of the town meeting. It's disappointing. Sir.
Mr. Moderator, Clarence Ward, 720 Goodrich Street. I feel that this is mine and my fellow residents' water, and I don't want it going anywhere except to Lunenburg. If you have to send it someplace, my recommendation is to my house, 720 Goodrich Street. Just run the pipe from the current pipe on Reservoir Road up Goodrich Street, 700 feet. Second driveway on the left. I'll be standing by with my crew to connect up when you get there. And of course, every house the pipe goes by pays the better. I don't care when it was built. I think we should expand the water system within Lunenburg before shipping a drop of water out of town. And in closing, before we go to the vote, I would appreciate it if you would explain to everyone here tonight what a yes vote means and what they're voting for, and what a no vote means and what they're voting for.
Before I take the vote, it'll be clear. I'm going to let the young lady, then we'll take the answer a couple of points. You can answer his point.
Okay, my name is Mark Bursham, I'm Water Commissioner of 20 Buttonwood Place. Sir, to your point about keeping Lunenburg water in Lunenburg, if Fitchburg and Leominster did that, there'd be a lot of people that'd be pretty upset in the Whalen District because they currently receive their water from Fitchburg and Leominster. And also, the water is a natural resource that really nobody owns, and it is just regulated by the state. And I think they do a really good job at regulating it. I mean, we're capable of pumping over 2.5 million gallons, and they only allow us to pump 540,000 gallons a day. So I think that the state does a great job regulating a natural resource that we have and that is everybody's to use, regardless of where they live.
Thank you. Now, we'll let the young lady go, John, all right? We always let the ladies go, John. You won't forget what you're going to say.
I hope I won't.
No, yeah.
Mr. Moderator, I'm Donna Sy, I'm 32 Sandy Cove Road in Lunenburg. And in the information that was passed out, you mentioned that preliminary planning has already begun for a hospital, hotel, and other commercial entities. What other commercial entities are also being considered?
Anybody got an answer?
Okay, I'm not sure the one you just said, but I'll read off the list.
Under the opportunity, the first bullet point on your paper that you handed out.
Okay, well, the list is, they had the hospital, doctor's office, a hotel, gasoline station with a coffee shop, movie theater, 4-bedroom houses, an office building, a retail store, 4 restaurants, a supermarket, a sports function hall facility, and the last one was the hospital.
Holy moly, that's a lot more than I was under the impression that was going to be.
Right, and the total water for that, they were asking for 250,000, but when you do the Title V numbers, that number comes to 225,000, which, as we've said several times, the Title V, the numbers are extremely high. So we actually confirmed a lot of these numbers. We confirmed that these numbers are really high with Leominster. So we compared the hotel. This is a 150-room hotel. We compared it to Leominster with 188. They use significantly less with the 188 doing than what this big works.
The hospital, how does that compare with any of our hospitals in this region?
The number that they use for the usage is higher than Leominster Hospital. And I don't think it's anywhere near the size that Leominster.
So we could assume that perhaps if with a hospital that size, that other medical facilities might go in, dentists, other medical labs. There could be other growth in the upcoming years. And other things like maybe restaurants, fast food stores. There could be a lot of development in that area.
Right. And on the side of capacity, where people mentioned that we could go over the 250,000. It's just like in Lunenburg, I don't think it's any different with the sewer department. You want a connection, you have to submit an application, demands are. And if someone came in, even in Lunenburg, and say, hey, we want to put in a tech park that's going to use 6 million gallons a day, well, they're not going to get the water. It's not there, so we're going to deny it. So it'll be the same case that would happen in Lancaster. We just
So
deny it.
in this expanded district, they would have to submit that application to Lancaster as well as our water district if we chose to.
Well, the Lancaster department would be through their building department. The water specifically would be to Lunenburg Water District.
So we would be working more closely with Lancaster on any potential development in this region.
Correct.
So would there be additional peoples that would have to be, committees that would have to be formed to address this?
I don't believe so. I think it'd be the same situation as Lunenburg, where we have the meetings with the planning board and development coming into town. You know, we have, usually I just attend the meeting, so it's not a very high demand kind of thing. We would just have another meeting in Lancaster.
Sounds like there's a lot more would be going on in that area. Commercial development is a good thing for the region. I just want to make sure it's a good thing for the Lunenburg Water District. Thank you.
Mr. Alonso, and then you're next, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. My name is Tom Alonso, 284 Lancaster Avenue. I may have one question and then a comment. So my question is on the data that was handed out here. Total water available from all sources is basically 2.6 million gallons per day. I have two questions on that. First of all, what is the average distribution of water per day with the current system? And also, if you have that much excess capacity, why would you be looking for a new well source at all?
Okay, on the first part for the gallonage, our permit from Mass DEP is 540,000 gallons per day. We don't actually use what we're permitted. Our actual daily usage for the year is roughly 450,000. The typical usage during the summer, high demand irrigation time of the year, is around 600,000 gallons per day. And during the winter time, it's in the area of like 320 to 350,000 per day. But the average overall for over the whole year is 450. Then answer the second question.
Yeah, what was your second part of the question, Tom?
If we're using what Mr. McNamara just said, and it looks like we have almost 4 times that capacity of the wells per the data sheet that we handed out, why would you find the need to, or the requirement to look for new wells in North Lancaster?
Because by doing that, the wells that we found, we hopefully will find, we haven't found any because it hasn't been tested, would be used for that development. Okay? And then we could back off providing water to that development and use the capacity that we have on the Keating wells, so-called, in the town of Lunenburg. So it would just be, I don't think you can ever have enough sources of water. I mean, it's you know, we're looking for water all the time.
The reason I ask is because at the meeting I attended of the Water District 5 weeks ago, in June, I believe it was, we talked about this, and some people specifically asked, well, what happens if the Keating well doesn't produce? What if it doesn't dry up? And we were told, I believe by the superintendent, but I don't want to necessarily attribute to him that, well, we pumped this for the stress test, and so there's no chance of it not drying up. So if you have 400% the capacity we're using now, it seems like extra water sources is, I guess, certainly not a requirement here, and there is no need, at least from my perspective, of going, purchasing or drilling and spending money for a new well or having somebody else spend the money for another well. That's just the way, it seems like the new well site argument, to me, in my evaluation of the data, seems to be a red herring for expanding the district.
Tom, can I answer a little bit? Sure. The well sites, I mean, we had several people make concerns to us. And we're doing our best to answer everybody's concern and deal with every concern. And one of them is the dewatering of the aquifer in that particular basin, water basin. And the easiest and best solution to that is to find a source in Lancaster to lessen the burden of that. Yes, the Keating well can supply all the water needed. The gentleman on Goodrich Street, there's a well on Goodrich Street. If it became possible to put that well in, we would go at that well too. I would go after every possible well that we can find. If there's a well in Lancaster, I think it's something that we should pursue. And especially if we do the IMA route, where if there's well sites, I think they're going to pursue and stop the demand, need to have lumber.
All I'm saying is that it sounds like it's a nice to have, it's certainly not a requirement of this district, from my perspective. I want to bring back something that one of the earlier speakers said. That, even if I wasn't in favor of expanding the district, which I'm not currently tonight, after going to that What a District meeting where we had lots of questions, lots of people had lots of questions, certainly I agree with one of the previous speakers that the current plans are just way too speculative, way too fluid, and not enough certainty to justify expanding the district, which would be a certainty. At this stage, having no commitment from the developers, not knowing who they are, not filling in some of the blanks that I think are out there, I think it's completely premature, and the people who said that, I agree. But my reasons for not expanding the district are, in no particular order. Number one, the voting power of Lunenburg residents. Now, we can talk about the percentages of how many voters will be there compared to what the voters are in Lunenburg. But the reality is, one of the previous members of the Board of Selectmen stated, this initially, why we're here today, is that your annual meeting, I think less than 15 people. So even small numbers can have influence if people don't attend the meetings, and that's something that is of concern to me. And because of that concern, I don't believe that we should give up control to residents outside of the town. From the residents outside of the town, I think you create orphaned areas within their town. And if you want to understand what I mean by orphaned areas, there are people in the visitor section, and people approach me outside who came here and, they are not in the district, but they're voters, they think they should have a say. There are people on Pleasant View Avenue who are members of the Lunenburg Water District who have been trying to get water, and they've been caught in the middle because their voices, being just several homes, have no power in Lunenburg, and they have no voting power in Lunenburg. So you would leave people without an avenue to go to when you cross those political boundaries. And lastly, second to last, it's unnecessary expanding the district to achieve the goals of both Lancaster and Lunenburg. In Lancaster, they wanted to, increase their economic development, and I agree with the previous speaker who said that it's good for the region. I agree, I concur. I think economic development would be good for the region. And from the Lunenburg Water District, they're looking to increase revenue. There is nothing that an intermunicipal agreement can't achieve on those two regards. We can give Lancaster the water they need, we can get the revenue we need, but if we expand the district, there's a more sense of permanence about that. It has no termination date, no expiration date. We can't limit the capacity of water beyond the actual capacity of the pump. As you said, you can't say you're only going to get 250,000. If they're part of the district, they get all the rights that everybody else in the district has. We don't know how many people are going to tie in, and the rates cannot be different. Right now in an IMA, the rates to Lancaster, who are very excited about getting water to do this development, we can make the rates different, and that's an important feature. So lastly, nothing that can't be achieved with IMA can't be done to achieve the goals, but the intermunicipal agreement does it without A, blurring or confusing political boundaries, without giving up voting rights or control, and without giving up any representation on either side. Last, very last, is that there's nothing to say that you have an IMA if you're worried about them developing their own water source. There's nothing to say when everything is in place and we're providing them water and everybody gets to see what they're doing. We can certainly go to expand the district at that point and say, you know what, now we know exactly what we're getting. Now everybody in this room can determine for their own sake on specifics whether we want to expand the district. There's nothing that precludes that, and so I urge people to vote yes and rescind the vote today.
I've been holding Mr. Esposito back. I keep saying, well, get to somebody else, so let him have his word.
I had a half a dozen answers.
Now, give us your name again and where you live. Thank you.
John Esposito, 406 Mulpus Road. I had a half a dozen answers in my head for a half a dozen different people. And I'm trying to think of what some of them are. First of all, the water that we're pumping out of the Keating well, the Lunenburg right now, is not Lunenburg water. It's Lancaster's water. The aquifer that we're pumping out of, every drop of it right now is on Lancaster's property. So if we get a deal with Lancaster, we're going to be taking Lancaster's water and selling it back to them. The other question is, couple ladies back, second lady after the first gentleman from Townsend Harbor Road. If Lancaster comes to us and says, look, we're going to put up 6 more hotels and we want more water for these 6 hotels, we don't have to give it to them. The DEP has control over every drop of water in this state. They tell us what we're going to do. We don't tell them what they're going to do. And this is not a done deal yet. This is in the preliminary stage. And like Mr. Alonso said, he's worried about who the contractor is. He's worried about the development. What difference does a contractor make? I don't get his point on that. The contractor don't make any difference. We're not selling them buildings, with their land, we're selling them water. All we're interested in is when the water leaves Keating's well, where it winds up to, and how it's going to get there, and who's going to pay for it. There were some other questions too. I mean, I can't remember. There's been 25 questions that have been thrown at us. And
I'll let you come back.
well,
You can have another word. Got a piece of paper right down.
Mr. Moderator?
Go ahead.
I'll try to remember the various points. The first one I want to make is to the gentleman that lives at 720 Goodrich Street. We'll be happy, sir, to come down and to look at your situation and give you a price for bringing water down to your house.
I'll be there.
Okay, we will get in touch with you within the next few days, okay?
Excellent.
All right. The other things that were brought up, I'm sure that I'm not going to get them all, but the concern was about the meeting and the poor attendance that we had. And I will take, as I have said, full responsibility for that. Because as a water commissioner for 40 years, believe me when I tell you, nobody came to our meetings. We didn't change a thing, but you can be assured that we are changing things and people will get to know what the situation is. Okay? People have asked, well, why didn't you put a notice on the bills, right? Because they came out in January, February, the end of March. We collected the data and we sent them out in April. So the meeting had already been conducted. So believe me when I tell you, you will get proper notice about any meeting. In terms of the development, in my previous life, before I got into banking, I was the real estate manager for Data General Corporation in the Northeast. And I developed property on behalf of Data General, and I will tell you that before Data General did anything, they had to be guaranteed that all of the utilities that they needed were at the site. So to the person that said, well, we don't know anything, you're right. Because when this whole thing started, I said, it's in its infancy. There's a lot of work to be done. And from a financial standpoint, a developer isn't going to move forward unless he or she knows that there is access to the utilities that they need. And so we're not putting the cart before the horse, okay? In terms of the gentleman's comment about the selectmen and their interest in the Lunenburg Water District and taking them over. It was on TV, I was there, I saw it. Okay, Mr. Alonso said, you know, that's something that I really would like to talk about, and I've always wondered about that. And Mrs. Bertram was there shaking her head. And I was born at night, but not last night. And I understand why there is interest in the Lunenburg Water District. And the possibility of joining it with other departments within the town for financial and other reasons. So I saw that on TV. Okay? In terms of all the regulations and with regard to how this whole process evolves, the Department of Environmental Protection controls the game. And if they say, we're not going along with this, it doesn't make any difference what we all say here. It's not happening. There are certain safeguards and checks and balances that we all have to go by. And the DEP has all of the cards, and it's a golden rule. The guy who has the gold makes the rule, well, they have the gold and they make the rule, okay? Let's see, what else? I think that's about it. I'm sure I forgot something, so if I have, you...
We can come back to it. We're gonna let the lady go first, sir, of course.
Carol Hatch, 41 Hilltop Lane. I'm confused. If the primary goal is to make money so that we can decrease Lunenburg's water rates, but in answer to why we would be trying to find more wells, the answer is because then Lancaster would have their own water, then it doesn't really make any sense to me to be going in a complete circle for no reason.
Not really, if I could, Mr. Bonner. Okay? And let me see if I can clarify that for you, okay? There are many reasons why this makes a lot of sense from our standpoint. And the first is so that we can increase our revenue and decrease the cost of water to everybody that takes water. Now, when the well sites that we anticipate are there come to fruition, and the developer puts in the well, it's not costing us anything, the developer puts in the well, we still have custody and control of those wells. And so, in essence, we would be continue to be the water district for that area, and we would be selling them that water, and they're okay with that. Believe me, they don't want to take over the responsibility that we have and we do every day with testing and all of that kind of stuff. So it's very straightforward. Okay, we will make money, and we also will control the water that comes from the wells. And I can't, for the life of me, understand why anybody in their right mind would be against getting new well sites for the continuation of a supply of a commodity that we all think is very important. So that's all that we're trying to do. And I hope that answers your question.
Not 100%, I just...
All right.
And I'm not going to belabor this, I want Carl to be able to have his turn, but if Lancaster becomes part of the district, why would it be in their interest for us to have to sell our joint water back to them?
Because we are providing a service to them immediately that enables them to construct and approve a very large commercial endeavor, and they receive tax revenue for that. And this is an integral part of that developmental process. So they're happy, believe me, they're happy to allow us to make whatever money and do whatever we have to do with regard to water, because their interest is much larger.
Just one last comment, but those developers aren't the voters.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. It's Carl Lutz, 50 Sunset Lane. I am a visitor.
Yes.
And that's several things I'm not saying to begin with such an interview. But the first one is because I am a visitor. And that's why I'm here, and I hope the people that do get to vote, and I know a lot of people, and you do have empathy for everyone in town, not just the people currently in the water district. I'm very concerned about the water district expanding and becoming a not Lunenburg completely focused entity. I live on Lake Shirley. If we ever, at some point in the future, we will have sewer. I'm sure that will in the future, but when we do, having water will be extremely important. And I think if we go ahead with this extension of the district, I think our chances of getting water are somewhat reduced, because we won't have the same voice as we would if it's only Lunenburg. I'm very concerned about the future of the people who are not currently in the water district and don't have a vote today, and whose lack of vote will have even worse in the future when we're part of a Lancaster who has big companies, big development, and they're pushing for all the water. So that's just my concern, and hope people are sensitive to the rest of the town. I understand people confused, because I'm trying to keep track of this whole process and read everything, and the target keeps changing. 2 days ago, the number one goal in the paper for the water district was revenue. Tonight, the number one goal is wells. Wells which haven't been defined, don't know if they have capacity, we don't really know much about them, but it's a great hope, and we're going to put a big gamble, and we're going to gamble a lot on it. If this thing continues to go through. But I'd like to dig a little bit into one of the ones that try to maintain consistency, and that's the revenue side. I'm taking that revenue is the main driver, and that usually is whatever people say, here's the revenue, profits is the main driver. And I suspect it would continue to be the main driver if somebody went after paying and said, we want another $250,000, they'd roll out how much that's going to make for us. So I'm a little concerned there. But regarding the revenue, early in the process, when there was a lot of concern about capacity, how much water we have, and how much we use, very quickly the water district put out a document that, well, it really wasn't 250,000 gallons, it really was more like 130,000 gallons, and even tonight it was mentioned that, well, the real need is 1/2, which was mentioned tonight. That's what's really needed. And we haven't got a business model and a revenue stream based on 250,000 gallons. So it seems like we want to use the big number when it's on the revenue side and help convincing people, but we don't like that number when it comes to capacity. And the other things that's thrown around that the numbers are really confusing. We hear 2.5 million gallons of output per day capacity. I think is the right number. Yes, we do currently use 460,000 average over the year. But we use 1.2 million at the peak times, and nobody's mentioning that. If we add in this 250,000 gallons, assuming that revenue comes in and 250,000 gallons is going to go up, and that peak ratio is the same as our peak ratio, we will consume, just with this deal, no more water in Lunenburg, we'll consume 72% of the capacity of our wells. And I don't know what these two wells are bringing. So, the numbers 2.5 million versus 450,000, 250 sounds small, but that's not really the case. You really need to look at the peak capacity. That's why we have a lot of tanks, but they have a limited capacity as well. So the numbers are all over the place, and I just get really concerned that we're kind of being told what kind of answers the question at the moment, and then when another question is going to hold something different. So I just don't know what the real story is going to be. And I don't think anybody does, and that's why I think it's premature to be taking this step, which is probably pretty irreversible once you take it. To go, create a new entity, a new municipal entity that is not really focused on servicing Lunenburg. I hope you don't consider this whole thing.
Yeah.
Somebody,
Yes, thank you. I really take exception to the fact that some people, specifically the previous speaker, thinks that the numbers are all over the place. They are not. Because we don't know when and if the potential site, the potential build-out will exist, what we've done is to give a best case scenario at 250,000 gallons. That's the max. Okay? So it could be less than that. And that's okay. But the max is 250. Some people are concerned, that we don't have, a number. And now some people are concerned that we're not giving them the right number. We have no idea when this will come on stream. But what we do have is an absolute 250,000 worst case. So how much more transparent can we be? We are not, and have not, and will not depend upon the revenue from that operation to sustain the Lunenburg Water District. Because we have a budget of $1.1 million and we will go along. This is added revenue that we have the potential to take. So to say that we don't give the right numbers is wrong. Pure and simple, it's wrong. Okay? And I hope that the good folks here understand that. I mean, we took this number and that's what we based the economics on.
One thing keeps coming up, that you mentioned, two comments that made there before about the 250,000 gallons, and perhaps your legal could comment on it. Is it true that if it's in the district, that we can cap the volume that they use?
Is it true?
That we can cap it, if they're part of the district, as opposed to an IMA, where you could cap the volume? Is it true that if someone is in the district, you can indeed tell them you cannot use any more water?
I believe that to be the case.
I appreciate the legal input.
Yeah.
He's asking council if you know if they can cap.
It's too vague a question to give an answer that would be...
Let's not go there. You can't answer the question. You want to ask him?
Would you repeat the question, please? Would you ask the gentleman to repeat the question?
If we have the developments that's advertised today, is this that adds up to whatever it adds up to? If those people are on water in their apartment district, and they need more water than 250,000 gallons combined, can we say no and shut your water off?
Well, I don't know very much about the list, but my understanding is that it's a hypothetical list. It's simply a proposal or a projection. So that's a hypothetical situation. But I would tell you that the district would be in a position to limit the distribution of water to such an operation. But nothing has happened. And in truth, I'm not an advocate for this, but I just want to make a point about the relative weight, if I could use that term, of an intermunicipal agreement to address this kind of situation versus an expansion of the water district into part of North Lancaster. They're really two different things. And something that has to be understood is, one of the gentlemen, a previous speaker, a member of the Board of Selectmen, was talking about the blurring of political boundaries. But the Lunenburg Water District itself is a municipal unit. It's a very specialized kind of municipal unit with a limited agenda. And the boundaries of the district are whatever they are. So that if a portion of North Lancaster came into the district, that part of North Lancaster, together with the present district, would be the Lunenburg Water District. And there wouldn't be any blurring of political boundaries. And it is not analogous to a situation such as exists at Pleasant View, where the city of Leominster provides water there. Leominster is not a district, they're a city, and they're providing water outside their boundaries to independent takers. It's a completely different situation, and it's true, those takers are somewhat at the mercy of that situation. But if North Lancaster were to be added to the district, then the municipal entity that would be dealing with anyone there who wanted water would be the Lunenburg Water District. And to the extent that you're dealing with a taker, your leverage is far better if you're the primary player in that geographical area having to do with water than if you're outside that area and trying to deal with the other side of the equation, the other side of the agreement, through an intermunicipal agreement that has to take place between one municipal entity, which is the water district, and another municipal entity, which is the town of Lancaster. That's where the agreement takes place. And in such a thing, in terms of how agreements work and who has what leverage, the water district would be in a far better leverage position to control the situation than it would be in any kind of an inter-municipal agreement where you're essentially on the outside reaching in. So the point is, in the case of this gentleman's question,
Yes.
if you have a hypothetical development situation involving commercial or possibly industrial entities on one side, and an entity like the Lunenburg Water District on the other, without knowing what the particulars of any of those arrangements are, I would answer your question that the Lunenburg Water District would be in a position to limit the quantities of water that would go to those takers.
Hi, my name is Sarah 304 Lancaster Ave. I'm in the water district. First of all, I wanted to say that I think everyone here is in support of the water district. They're in support of a solid, sustainable water district for many, many years. We just simply disagree about what the best method for that is. And I just wanted to bring that up because I am in disagreement with you right now. I was in disagreement at the selectmen's meeting. I brought up that Mass DEP has put out several things about stress water basins, and Lunenburg's well sites are in every single well site we have in Lunenburg is in a stress basin. And so I'm heartened to see that you are looking for wells in Lancaster. But I still remain in opposition because supplying water right now as an enlarged district puts this entire water district at extreme risk because we don't know what we will have from Lancaster. You know, I know that I've looked at the map, and that expanded map that you've drawn is within a mass GIS layer that shows a medium yield aquifer, and that has the potential to be a really great source. I agree with you on that. However, I agree that that's further down the road. Until that's developed and you have a written agreement that you have the rights to that water, which I don't, do you have that right now?
No.
Okay. Then I think it is in its infancy. And I will say another thing. I have an infant. And once you start having an infant, you don't get to go backwards. This is a chance we have, as voters in your district, to do something about it. I would not be opposed to this later, down the road, if you have those agreements with Lancaster, but you don't have that right now. And this expanded district has already been voted for. And that's why I'm opposed to it, because I want to see a sustainable district in the long term. I think we have that intent in mind. I just don't like seeing the entire district put at risk for something that's uncertain.
My tall friend has been very patient.
Aaron Carl, resident 105 White Drive, Lunenburg. Got a couple of quick questions. One, this is playing up with a visitor from Shirley asked, but the projected revenue of $400,000, that's based on if Lancaster buys 250,000 gallons of water. Right. So until they start buying water, there's no additional revenue, correct?
Right.
So this could be 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. So, I mean, no one should be, as a resident or a member of the water district, I shouldn't be expecting a rate cut until whenever we start collecting money, right? And most likely not even then, because by then rates will have gone up regardless. And so I think it seems maybe disingenuous to say that we're going to see rates on this. Is that correct?
No, it's not, sir. It's not disingenuous. It's a factual basis that if we have that kind of revenue, it's our anticipated intent to reduce the cost of water to the folks of Lunenburg. It's not disingenuous.
10 years from now, you have no idea where our water rates will be at in 10 years, and if that's even possible to reduce it, or if it just means reduce the increase, something like that. But it's no one. I don't want anyone to be under the impression that their water bill is going to be cut down next year if this goes into place.
We never said that, sir.
I know.
We never said, sir.
I didn't say it did. I'm just saying, me sitting here listening to this, that's part of what I was thinking. Oh, water rates will go down. But that's not the case. At least there's no anticipated data. To continue with that, I mean, just again, I have to admit I'm not as expertly informed as this as all of you there are, but sitting here tonight, I can tell you that I'm hearing a lot of, seems to be, it doesn't jive, where we have kind of water restrictions in place and yet we have plenty of water. We have plenty of water and yet we need more wells. Lancaster has potential wells, but this is another question. These projected wells that might exist in Lancaster, who would pay to drill those, build those?
The developer. This is not going to cost the Lunenburg Water District any money.
But, so here's my other question then, why would they have any incentive to drill wells that they're not even gonna own when we're already providing them water?
Because that's the requirement for us to do business with them.
I guess my other thought on that would be, if you want wells to get drilled, the most likely way that that's gonna happen is by telling the developer, you need to drill them in order to go forward with your project.
That's what
No, I guess what I mean, without us even providing them. Like, if you want to build this multi-million-dollar facility of hospitals and hotels and find, drill your well for your water, that seems like a logical thing to do. But
So you missed the point about the timing, okay? The timing to do that is anywhere in the range of 4 to 8 years.
Right.
Okay? So it takes that long to get it approved by DEP. So what we're doing is providing this near term so that they can do what they want to do, and that's a requirement for us to be in the game, so-called. We've told them, this is what you're going to do.
I've been in Lunenburg for 10 years. My last point is that before moving to Lunenburg, I lived on the North Shore, Salem, and Salem and Beverly, one of their sources of water comes from a place called Wenham Lake.
Right.
The town of Wenham, 100 years ago, basically gave up Wenham Lake to Salem and Beverly. They would kill to have it back today. My point is, I think once you go into these decisions, much like what the mother over there said, there's no going back. And I think it is a real concern, just logically, how could you deny water to people in the water district if they need it, So we say, oh, it's capped at 250,000 gallons, but 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, if you're thinking the long term, you can't really say that. And I think there'd be a real strong case to say, how can you deny water to us? We're members of the water district. We paid to drill these wells. And it's short-sighted to say, let's give this water away for, $100,000, $200,000, whatever. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's certainly no guarantee of any money coming in for years and years. Thank you.
Mr. Moderator, my name is Ann Hall. I live at 195 Rolling Acres Road. I don't recognize many people in this room tonight, but I have in the past held elected office for 19 years in this town. 9 of them as a selectman. And I had a great deal of experience at that time. There were only 3 of us in those days. And we didn't have as much experience held as they have now. Much like we now have 3 people here, 3 citizens who alone are making the decisions on a project of magnitude which is going to have an impact on this town for many, many years. Now, when you talk about you have to go to the legislature, no one's mentioning them. They have to approve it first. Well, if you want to change it, you're going to have to go back to them and get them to change it. And that's something to think twice about in this state. Furthermore, the Department of Environmental Management may deny the request for more water being pumped, but they may also turn around and tell us, you will pump. And I think part of the problem is that when the town of Lunenburg goes about a project of this size, certainly the high school is one example, you probably end up with at least 50 citizens giving their input and discussions back and forth about what is the best route to take. I don't think that any 3 people in this room or in the town should really be asked to make all of these decisions. I think this is something that should be postponed and discussed at great length, and I think that the water district should be reaching out to the Finance Committee and Planning Board and lots of people who are also involved in the development of this town. And I am not happy to finance the development in another town with my water. Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, I just gotta let the mood here a minute and tell my wife to call my eldest daughter so my pocket will stop vibrating.
We have 3 pieces, 2 are gonna go home. You've already spoken, so I gotta let's do this, folks, okay, so that you're not doing something negative. You came, and I want you to talk, and if you've got an opinion, I want to hear it. And that's what the democracy of a meeting like this is all about. By the same token, you know, something different maybe, okay, you're gonna say pretty much the same thing, maybe we don't need to hear it again. We don't want to hear it again. Okay. But I do think at least that for the hour, some of us have to go to work. So go right ahead.
My name is John Taylor. I own the residence of 135 Flint Road. I'm quite sure about Mr. Watt. I am not a Lunenburg resident or voter, and I really appreciate you allowing us visitors to come and say something and ask questions.
It's a democracy.
I had a half a dozen that's been generated the last half hour. My property is...
Close the question! You're not allowed to make that. Stop!
My property is within the boundaries of the district. Is there any effect on me? And if I wanted to join the district, I'm a half a mile from the nearest pipe, how do you approach it?
We would approach it, John, with a benefit.
Which would be solely on me.
Well, not necessarily. If there are people on the way to your house that want to do the same thing, it would be won by them as well.
That's right. Thank you. I'll try to move this along. I'm not aware of the previous meeting, so I'm probably going to ask a question most people know the answer to. But in this package tonight, I do not see the draft document for this agreement between the Water District and Lancaster, and I didn't see the entire copy of the motion. Was the document presented at the last meeting, and why don't we see the motion?
Okay. There was no document because it's in the infancy and we're far from solidifying an agreement. The motion that we had at the meeting that was held in March outlined, it was Article 8, I believe, and outlined what we wanted to do to expand the district.
Thank you. Next question. Somebody talked about salaries and expenses of the water district. Is that information in public record?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I've got 2 of one. My final question is, do you anticipate this operation reducing the cost of the town of Lunenburg for fire hydrant maintenance?
John, let me tell you, we currently charge in the neighborhood of $13,000 a year for hydrants and the maintenance. And I will tell you that it's woefully inadequate as compared to what it costs us right now to maintain the hydrants. So the short answer is no.
One last statement, if I may?
Sure.
I certainly hope that this does happen, that the effects to the roads leading to the new wells will be less destructive than they were to the heat one. Thank you very much.
We're going to have the young lady speak.
Hi, I'm Dr. Crow, it's 95 Stonefence Road, and I am a visitor, not in the district. So my question is, earlier question I was asked by a previous speaker, but I just don't feel like her question was thoroughly answered. So with the additional water that we will be pumping out, if that's the 250,000, if not, how long can we sustain that? Can the well sustain that? Is there any research that has been done? I know you mentioned stress tests, but beyond that, has there been any more research?
We currently have wells that have been in service since 1961. They have the same capacity as they did when they were installed with proper maintenance. If we did use the 250,000 gallons from the particular Keating well, we're talking 4 hours a day to pump that water. Right now, we pump probably Lancaster Ave wells like 10 hours a day. This is at peak time. And the heating well sometimes 6 hours a day. So we're adding 4 hours a day. And the heating well, we don't even run at full capacity, we run at like half capacity. So we're not utilizing the well as to what it was designed. So I don't have any concern whatsoever. I'm 250,000 gallons a day to Lancaster every day of the week, month, year, whatever. Whatever. I have no concern.
Okay, but so there hasn't been any research in...
When the well was installed, they did full research of that well. It's called a pump test. And they calculate the impacts of all the wetlands around the area. And that's what they wanted to find out if we impacted any wetlands. And in this case, we did not. Actually, we had to monitor the wetlands for 3 years while we used that well. And this year, the DEP removed that requirement of monitoring all the water levels in that area. So it's confirmed after multiple years that we do not impact the wetlands. So it was tested, it was designed by engineers, Mass DEP confirmed it, that well can pump that rate, that is the sustained rate, long term. Indefinitely, we could pump that rate.
Okay, yeah, because, I mean, I know water is kind of, it's not an indefinite source, or it's kind of a limit to it. So, I mean, I was just, if we're really considering this for the long term, multiple generations down the line, that's kind of what I was concerned with. But I think that answers my question there.
Sir.
Dave Mackin, 34 Townsend River Road. The question is there a legal agreement in place between the Lunenburg Water District and Lancaster at this point?
As we've said, this is in the infancy, okay? This is one of the steps that we have to do, and there was a great deal of additional work that has to be done. Specifically to your question, no.
And so you're asking us to make a decision based on no contract between the town that we're going to be servicing. We have to vote yes or no. We're not going to be able to rescind that decision. This is our opportunity to do that.
We don't.
We're asking for a decision so that we can go to the legislature to expand it and keep the process moving. We have an opportunity now, and if we take that opportunity, it starts, and we go to the legislature. Then we start talking about agreements. Then we start talking about, I don't think it's $75 million worth of infrastructure like the school, but we're not going to have a plan on that because we're going to have them pay for that plan and develop it. So we're not going to have a plan on the onset because we're not paying for it. They have to pay for it and submit it to us. And then we can make it available for public view.
My concern is that the information that was presented, some of the previous speakers mentioned that this was a stressed water basin. That's the first time I heard that. I've heard there's plenty of water, but then I've heard these wells. Are the Lunenburg wells in a stressed water basin?
Well, they used to mention low stress, medium stress. They actually abandoned all that talk. They don't label the stress basins anymore. It's something they measure fluvial fish. It's a new requirement for the monitor stream flows. There is nothing that I'm aware of that these are in a stressed basin. This is new regulations that's coming out. And while I'm mentioning new regulations, it's not too far down the road. It's already in some cities and towns in Massachusetts. They're going to restrict the amount of water that we can pump. Meaning the irrigation systems are going to be going away. We're going to actually have more water than we even know than we have now. So what's going to happen? We generate our whole revenue, operation of the district, by the sale of water. If the DEP says that we can only pump 70% of our water, we're going to have to enforce restrictions, very strict restrictions, so no one's going to use the water. So what does that mean? It means we have to raise the rates. So this whole Lancaster thing is going to offset that, where we're going to selling water to businesses which are not impacted, as was mentioned. They're not tied to water ban, water restrictions, which is not tied to us for the ability to pump the water. Like I said, we can pump 2.5 million gallons a day. So the water ban is not saying that Lunenburg cannot supply the water. The water is there. The basin things, the stress spot, that's new regulations that are coming out. It could be a year or two.
And why is the DEP restricting the amount of water that you can pump?
They do it by population. They look at each city or town, they see what you have for structures, residences, private property, all the different scenarios, and they come up with a number. They say that is your maximum number. And in Lunenburg, it's 540,000, and we're actually 100,000 residents.
So with the 250,000 gallons per day, that works out to be approximately 90 million gallons per year that we're going to ship over the line, per se, back to Lancaster. How does that water go through their septic systems and drain back into the aquifer? It seems like you would be lowering the water basin with the residents that have wells. I'm actually concerned about the folks that don't have a boat tonight. The folks that have wells in the Birch Street area that have recently had to go down 900 feet to get water at a cost of $25,000. That's a lot of money for folks if you're going to be pumping more water out of that into town, and they don't have access to the water district water. I'm concerned actually that they might sue, they might sue because the water's gone, you caused them that legal issue, and they're going to bring, whether there's any merit in it or not, we're going to have to pay for that because you're going to have to defend it.
Well, the well we use is a gravel pack well. You're talking about bedrock wells, two entirely different animals. A gravel pack well, like I mentioned during that pump test, they determine exactly where that water comes from. Everything stabilizes. It did not impact any bedrock wells. In the Birch Street is nowhere near this particular well. The heating well, the actual water, as was mentioned, comes from the direction of Lancaster. So it returns, we're going to return it back to Lancaster. So it's going to be recharging itself partially. Majority of the water that does from the heating well goes to Picker Hills, this side of town. It never gets returned back to that aquifer. But the base part of the stream flows, where you said to mention the septic system, it's like it was mentioned earlier, this is a regional thing. So we're talking about the stream flow in aquifer. So even though the water did not return to the particular aquifer that it left from, it returned to the aquifer basin, which is the river stream. So it did return back to where it came from.
Thank you for that detailed answer, that helps.
You've already spoken, so I'm sorry, but I gotta let same goes with you.
Can I correct something that was
Well, I
presented?
just said you can't speak at the moment, I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, there's a lot of people who haven't had, people who have not had a chance to speak have to be the ones in the mic.
Go ahead. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Michael Capital, 1131 Mass Ave. I am a customer of the district as well as resident for a decade. It's actually more of a business question I have. Okay, I'll say it's a little better. Yeah. It's more of a business question I have. Lancaster obviously wants to expand revenues, very good, things of that nature. I've heard a lot of you talking environmental concerns and things of that nature, I understand that. What other options are available in Lancaster? I thought I had heard discussions about possibly arranging Shirley and things of that nature. I mean, I'm assuming that they're going to proceed with development. What other options do they have?
Our initial discussions with Lancaster, they discussed everything with Lancaster and Leominster. So as far as we know on the beginning discussions, as far as we know right now, where they are only option.
Okay, thank you.
Sir.
Mr. Moderator, seeing as we've been here for 2 hours...
Who are you?
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right, Mr. Moderator. I'm Mike Mack, 26 Corporate Circle, great town of Lunenburg. We've now been here for 2 hours. I've yet to hear a speaker rise from the audience speaking in favor of the motion. I requested to call the question. Move the question.
So there's a motion to move the question. Is there a second? There's no debate on that issue. By rule, we vote, shall we move the question, which basically means to end the debate. 2/3 of the people in favor of ending the debate by moving the question, then we'll call for vote. All those in favor of ending debate by moving the question, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Also, I didn't think so. The article is now before you. Let's be clear. If you vote yes, which will be the first vote I will ask for, you are voting to rescind the vote taken pursuant to Article 8 of the warrant of the annual district meeting on March 28th regarding proposed expansion of the district. So if you vote yes, you are saying you want to rescind what you want.
Just question that it's going to be a visitors throughout the audience that cannot go. So you're being requested to be leave.
Well, I'm not going to make them leave. And I'll stand over here with all the visitors. If I don't want to hear a peep from any of you. Okay? Not a peep. All right. Thank you. You can be a registered voter, but you have to be a resident of the district, water district, and a registered voter in order to be able to vote. If you've got a yellow card, you can vote. Okay?
Moderator, point of order.
Point of order.
Previous gentleman.
Well, give us your name and address.
Dave Passios, 56 White Street.
Microphone, please.
Oh, I got a loud voice, but that's fine. The previous gentleman at the front of the room asked you to move all visitors to the visitor area. It's his belief that there are visitors spread out through the auditorium, and I don't believe we can take a vote legally with them spread out.
Okay. If there's anybody that's a visitor, if you do not live within the district, doesn't matter if you get water from the district, if you do not live in the district, I'd ask that you sit up in this area which we've marked visitors. So I expect people to be honest about that, right? Anybody that is a visitor, please move over here. If you don't have a yellow card, you're a visitor, okay? You weren't given a yellow card, you're a visitor. Oh, we'll give everybody a chance to relocate. I don't think these two children are going to vote, right? All right. I got that squared away in this row. Okay. So we're clear. If you say yes in the majority, then we have rescinded that vote to expand the district. That's all it is. The vote to expand the district. Right? All those in favor of rescinding that vote, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? No. Very good. Okay. So I'm going to, I don't know what the vote was, so I'm not going to declare it. I have two counters in each section that are going to count their sections. Stay with each other, take your section, and count people by their yellow card up in the air. Now don't put it up yet, you haven't seen what I want. I need my two counters over here. Oh, I remember, sir. You're one of my counters, come on. What happened to the young lady that was with you? She left? Okay, wait a minute. I need my other counter over here. Would you be my counter? All right, I got another counter. Keep talking. Start down here, and your group is going to count the stage, if you will. So, if you are in favor of rescinding that vote, hold up your yellow card for the count. You have to record these votes. The counters, of course, have to agree on their count, otherwise come back down and start again. Your side, and then announce it at a microphone. Hold on. Let everybody know.
control available.
Okay, so that's the microphone when you're ready. Right there. Chance to speak.
28. 28.
Okay.
Over here.
On the right, including the stage, 48.
28.
28. Okay?
Count the stage.
On my left, 23. In the middle, 70. Okay. All those opposed, raise your yellow card. You people, my counters on the right, make sure you're responsible for all the standings in your side. You got it. On my left, 28 and opposed. In the center, 53 opposed. On my right, 25 opposed. Everybody doing their math? You getting the kids up there? 121 are in favor of rescinding, 106 are opposed to rescinding. It's a majority vote. Article 8 of that meeting is rescinded.
On behalf of the Board of Water Commissioners, I want to say thank you very much for making the time to come out tonight. And you can be assured that going forward, you'll be hearing from us. We're going to take a much more proactive position relative to what's happening. You're welcome to check our website and come to our meeting. And
well, when are the meetings, Mr. Rogers?
Oh, thank you for asking. They're the second and fourth Wednesday of every month.
Where are they?
And the world corporate headquarters of the Lunenburg Water District, which is on Leisure Avenue in beautiful Wayland section of Lunenburg.
We are adjourned.
Thank you.